welfare recipients and this retired guy. So you can put them all the people you're supporting up on the refrigerator, and they should all have to write you notes every once in a while, let you know how they're doing. I'd feel better, wouldn't you? Is your responsibility to improve your customers' lives. Better get that out of your head. In our business, this is fatal. And it really isn't any other business. Now, it's pretty smart to sell them things that if they use them as you intended, will improve their lives. That's smart. But it's not your responsibility to see that it gets done. Nor should you lose any sleep over the fact that many don't. And in my business, see, a whole lot of what I sell, I mean, all kidding aside, the shrink wrap don't come off. And you will kill yourself in my business if you worry about making them take off the shrink wrap. Mostly, they just get mad at you. Not my responsibility. I didn't have any of the fun of giving birth to them. They ain't going to support me in my old age. They're on their own. Here's the thing. Use it, don't matter to me. It's one of the great lessons I learned early in life in the multi-level industry was I didn't want to be there. Because your money's dependent on actually getting them to do something. Lousy position to be in. Want the money and then leave it up to them to do something. If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. And so again, like in my business, look at the numbers. We got, what, 150 people here out of 46,000? All right? Why? You're the 150 who took off the shrink wrap. Am I losing sleep about the, whatever that number is, 45,800? No, I got over it a long time ago. You got to too. If the guy puts the shed in his backyard and never moves the crap out of the garage into the shed and still can't park the car in the garage, or has a more probable result, he moves all the crap out of the garage into the shed and then restocks the garage with more crap and still can't park the car in the garage, should Paul go out there and give him his money back? Right? Well, yeah, sell him another shed. That's exactly right. Now we're getting it. Yeah. Sell them garbage removal service. Sell them how to do a garage sales kit. Sell them something. That's sell them something. The entrepreneur's responsibility is this: maximum profit and wealth to his shareholders. If you're the sole shareholder, that's you. Then your responsibility is just to play fair. Not lie, cheat, steal. Those 10 Commandment things. What do you want to bet, Jay? And actually, you may even have a comment on this. What do you want? Here's what Jay does, by the way, on one of his businesses. Is with chiropractic offices, the inbound call, well, with any business, by the way, but with chiropractic offices, the inbound call is critically important. You spend a lot of money on advertising to make the phone ring, and then Barbara is the one answering the phone. And there's all sorts of mechanical problems. Barbara thinks it's a receptionist function, not an inbound sales function, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what do you want to bet that in many cases, Barbara's inability to schedule a lot of the patients and motivate them to show up is actually rooted in a lot of stuff going on in her subconscious about the fact that the doctor charges too much, he makes too much money, he's doing too well, he's driving too nice a car, and this poor person who needs care, it's unfair for that person to have to pay so much money. What do you want to bet? Jay, you got...
Well, I mean, I think the best example is that when they ask them the question, do you have insurance? And 80% of them, they say, no, I don't have insurance. They say, okay, well, thanks for calling. And that's it. No insurance, no insurance.
Yeah, he tapes all the calls. He private audits the calls. Okay. Which, by the way, if you haven't done this, you've got to call your own, you've got to mystery shop your own store, your own office, your own place of business, a lot. Because you will be really shocked at what happens. Get somebody who knows what they're doing, somebody in your mastermind group. We do it in our coaching groups, to crisscross call and play prospect and tape the call for you. You'll be nauseated. Okay. You'll be sick. You'll be terrified. But a lot of it is this. And so they don't have insurance. Here's what goes through the person's head. Oh my God. When we taught prepay, we taught chiropractors prepay. That is, how many of you have been to a chiropractor? Okay, good. So you know the drill, right? You go in, you exam, the x-rays, the report of findings, which is the sales presentation. Okay? Well, it's supposed to be. Where they show you the x-rays and tell you your spine's going to fall out if you don't come in 18 times a week for the first 6 weeks and 5 times a week. Okay, you got it, right? Well, prepay is case presentation, and so it's 18 times a week for the first 3 weeks and 6 times a week, and that all totals up to $7,862, and there's 3 ways you can take care of that. You can take care, you get your checkbook out, take care of it in 1 payment, and you save $800. Or you can do it in 3 payments, predate the checks, or we got a household finance contract here, and we can get you a loan. Now, it's done a little more elegant than that, you understand, but that's the deal. By the way, you can take a chiropractor who's barely keeping the light bill on, and you can take him to $40,000 a month like this if he'll do prepay, because he only needs 4 new patients that he can close. When we taught prepay, the mechanical process of this, by the way, works just like their fire alarm sales presentation works. If the doc will actually do the presentation, if he's bad, 1 out of 4 will say yes. If he's pretty good, 2 out of 4 will say yes. If he's really good, 3 out of 4 will say yes. But even if he's bad, 1 out of 4 will say yes, if he'll just run the presentation. We had to kill to get anybody to do the presentation. In part because they didn't believe anybody would give them the money, but mostly because they felt all kinds of guilt about asking somebody for $7,000 in advance. I know. We're coming up to a break pretty quick anyway. We can deal with it on a break. But then, if we could get the doc to do it, the next problem was the sabotage by the staff. Because where's their head at? This poor person with no insurance is coming in here, and they're an office manager, which is what I am. And I know they can't afford. And Doc's driving a Jaguar, that miserable SOB with his excessive profits. So how hard is Barbara going to work at scheduling that appointment? Not very hard at all. Consciously or subconsciously, she's going to keep that person out of the office. Happens in all kinds of businesses. The reason more stuff isn't sold? Because of all the guilt. That's why more stuff isn't sold. Let's do one more before our break. Here's one that'll get us into all kinds of trouble. Let's try 13. Here's the key word on this page. Just. If you want to underline something, underline the word just. Because the implication of this, here's how people respond to this if they believe it. They think that their lack of success, or the way to be more successful, their lack of money, or the way to get more of it, is to scrub harder, is to be a more deserving person. And they equate the fact they don't have what they want to them not being a sufficiently deserving person. And if I just scrub harder, things will turn around for me. Now the metaphysical version of this is equivalent. The metaphysical version of this is, I'm just not using the mental principles well enough. If I just think more positively, keyword just, things will turn around. It's another clue to why Hill was broke, Stone was rich. It's not the main reason, but it's a clue. Many of you know of Foster Hibbard. We're going to talk about some of his stuff a little later. When I got Foster, Foster was in the metaphysical version of this category. Foster believed in the word just. Not justice, but the just. All you should have to do, all you had to do in order to attract unlimited wealth was to get this right, to live the philosophy. He didn't get that you had to apply it in an environment where it had a reasonable opportunity of producing money, and you had to ask for the dough. Missed that part. So he's running around teaching prosperity to everybody with no prosperity, which pretty much, by the way, describes 90% of the people who run around and teach prosperity. If you want a great analogy to this, to help you try and get rid of it, it's the argument that 9/11 was our fault, in whole or part, because we have so much and other countries have so little, and because we have an immoral society. And so if we were just more moral and we were just more generous, we wouldn't deserve what happened to us on 9/11, and it never would have happened. Therefore, we should close the Defense Department and take all that money and divide it up between the less fortunate people in all these other countries, and we should spend it on churches and moral education in this country, and we don't need a Defense Department. You like that plan? Well, if you don't like that plan, you can't like this plan either, because it's the same plan. It's the same idea that if all we have to do is make ourselves more deserving people, and somehow the wealth will then fall out of the tree. No, it won't. Some of the gentlest, kindest, most deserving folks on the planet are broke, stay broke, always broke. Some of the hardest working people on the planet. See, some people, well, we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, but I'm always amused. I mean, some business people actually think they're working. I have clients say to me, I mean, there's a guy in the room right now who could be making 4 times the money he's making. I don't want to run a 16-step sequence and worry about getting all that mail out. It's too much work. Hey, the people who are really working hard are the people making minimum wage. They're working. The folks who work for us, you want to see somebody work, you come spend a day at the track. These people get $200 a week per horse to take care of a horse. Most of them have 3 horses. They get there at 6 o'clock in the morning. They work until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm talking hard physical manual labor. Most of you may remember that. I'm talking hard physical manual labor. Okay? At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, if they're lucky, they go take a nap. 5 nights a week, when we have live racing, they start again at 6 o'clock at night. Depending upon how late a race their horse is in, they get done between 11 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning. And the next day, they're back at 6. In this climate, in the winter, the barn ain't heated. All right? In the summer, it ain't air conditioned. It's a barn. All right? So they're either sweating or they're freezing. They're getting stomped on, shit on, peed on, kicked, rolled over, all for no money. They work. Most of us wouldn't last a week. I mean, you'd be laying on the ground. Huh? You want me to do what? You know? Hey, a big revelation since I was there as a kid. When I came back, they switched to wheelbarrows. This is the big technological improvement in the whole deal. I'm serious. When I left, you put the shed in a big basket, and you hiked it up on your hip, and you carried it the length of the barn, and then you heaved it into the big wagon where they come and haul the manure away. They put ramps on the wagons. Somebody figured this out after 50 years. They put ramps on the wagons, and they use a wheelbarrow.
They have that in Carthage.
Huh? This is the big technological improvement in the racing industry, is wheelbarrows. Nothing else has changed. I was gone for 20 years, everything else is the same. Okay? This is it. So now they use wheelbarrows. But I mean, still, this is back-breaking manual labor, long hours. I'm sure it violates some kind of federal labor law somewhere. Right? Chat, as bad as they may be, every one of his guys who actually goes out and does the pest control jobs works a lot harder than he does. They don't get near the money he does. See, it doesn't have anything to do with work. God forbid it should have to do. I mean, if we revise that whole system, let's pay people based on the hard work that they do. You can't run an economic system that way. You got the most money going to the dumbest mules on the planet. Nobody's left to run anything. It all collapses. So it's not work. Okay? So whether we're into the Harrisons with their, again, whatever Christian, Catholic, I mean, Jewish combination guilt thing that you guys got burdened with, or we're into the metaphysical sackcloth and ashes crowd, it's pretty much the same deal. Everybody's focused on this word just in this paragraph, and if I was just better, if I was just... Now, does being better help? Yeah. Does being a better person help? Sure. Should you try and be a better person? Sure. Okay. Does being a more moral person help? Sure. But alone, is it going to get the job done? No. Some of the gentlest, kindest, most moral people I've ever met are walking around with empty pockets and empty refrigerators at home. And some of the hardest working people you and I could find anywhere on the planet got empty refrigerators and empty pockets. And a lot of them are trying to fix it this way. Well, maybe if I go to church 4 times a week instead of twice a week. Maybe if I go work in a soup kitchen. Maybe if I just figure out a way to deserve it more, I'll get it. The system doesn't work that way. Here's why. It's your next page. Now I've lost that one. Okay. Yeah, here it is. Money doesn't have a conscience. Okay. It's paper. That's all it is. It's just paper. It's not significantly different. We have some printers in the room. It's not significantly different than the paper that's in your book. It's green, and it's got some kind of woven crap in it so that theoretically we can't counterfeit it, but it's paper. Right? It doesn't know if you're a priest or a pornographer. You know, these days. I mean, look, it's paper. That's all it is. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just paper. That's it. That's all. Okay? Doesn't have a conscience, doesn't know what you are, doesn't know what you do, doesn't care. It just moves around. That's all. Okay? If it worked that way, there never could be an Enron. There couldn't have been a Jesse James. Same guys. Okay? Couldn't be. Because the money would stop before it got to them. It would say, it would put on the brakes, it would speak, it would say, wait a minute. You're doing something we don't approve of. We're not coming into your hands. The stuff would work like, you know, Matrix movie stuff. It would stop, go back, and you wouldn't be able to get it. Well, it doesn't do that. Right? As a matter of fact, the second quote's a real good one. Money's attracted to go where it will increase the fastest. The stuff likes to multiply like rabbits. It likes to breed. It likes to go where it will have friends. You know, doesn't want to be in a pocket by itself. By the way, that's why you should always carry a bunch of it. The stuff, I'm serious, the stuff gets lonely. Right? And if it's lonely, it goes looking for an environment where it's to have some friends. So give it some friends. It comes where it'll increase the fastest. Doesn't care what that is. Right? Now, that doesn't mean you should be a pornographer. I'm not suggesting that. It doesn't mean you should run Enron. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is you've got to get out of your head that by not doing those things and by doing things that are, quote, quote, good, that alone attracts and multiplies wealth, because it doesn't. It may make, you know, make your next life a better deal. You may be in the cool place instead of the warm place. You may not come back as a toad, depending on, I mean, whatever your belief system is. It may have enormous impact on that, but in terms of whether the money comes to this pocket or not, no, it doesn't have any impact. If it did, you couldn't have, pick an industry. I mean, you couldn't have, 2/3 of all the e-commerce today is still adult entertainment. Most people believe that shouldn't be the way it is, but it is. And a significant percentage, I'm always amused, people get all bent out of shape, talk about pornography, but they own AT&T stock. Anybody own AT&T stock? Ah, AT&T stock. AT&T makes a ton of dough off 900 numbers. They make a ton of dough off the internet access to the porn sites. Anybody own Hilton stock, Marriott stock? Oh, damn. Well, you're in all of it, aren't you, baby? Hotel industry's in trauma right now because of the lawsuits that are beginning in certain states to try and block them from providing adult entertainment in room movies. Why? Because it's 20% of the bottom line. That's why. You take that out of there, you got a big problem. Anybody own General Motors stock? A lot of people own GM stock. GM owns a company called Vivid Entertainment. Oh, some people know what Vivid Entertainment is. You can't get more money just by being a better person. Keyword is just. You get more money by doing things that produce money. Let's take us a 15-minute break and start back at 11 o'clock. While we're waiting for people to get in their seats, a couple of things mentioned to me on the break you may find interesting. Make sure I don't screw this up now, Judith. But Judith told me of one of her employees who every year comes to her and needs a raise, which, of course, by the way, because they need it, you are, of course, obligated to give it. And so, man or woman, it doesn't matter, but, okay, so she comes to Judith every year and needs her annual raise. And Judith says to me, and so I sit down with her and I say, fine, you've got a raise as soon as you enroll in this course and you go to this seminar and you study this stuff. And as soon as you enroll, raise is a done deal. Not after you finish, right? As soon as you do these three things and get started, the raise is a done deal. My question to her was, how many years have you gone without giving her a raise? Okay? Her answer is 14. Matt mentioned to me, I mean, it's priceless, Judith. It's priceless.
You shouldn't have it if you just don't use her name. I really would hate to lose her.
Yeah, well, I doubt that there's any risk of that at this point. I think you could probably die and she'd come for at least 2 pay periods before she gave up. Yeah. Matt mentioned.
Funeral to be sure.
Yeah, yeah. Matt mentioned to me, which is really a very good example. Most of you know Jeff Paul. If you don't, you know of Jeff, and I'm sure you know the story that is in the little yellow book. When Jeff came to my first seminar, he and Peggy and the kids were living in the sister's basement, and he was up to $100 and some odd thousand on his credit cards, and business wasn't working. And he was close, by the way, because I really didn't do that much. But I think we pieced him into the seminar, as I recall, on 5 different credit cards. So, I mean, I knew. They didn't go to any mealtime. They disappeared because not only, I mean, they didn't dare get stuck with a tab, let alone eat in a restaurant. I mean, they came with peanut butter and crackers and stuff in the suitcase and went up to the room and ate all during the seminar. And it was a super conference. I don't know. I think it was $2,000, $2,500, whatever it was. And I'm pretty sure we used, I'm sure he has said to me, we used the last little margin on every one of these credit cards. I mean, I got the last dollar there was to get. There was no more. And what Matt said is, wonder where he'd be today if you had felt any guilt about taking his money. And it's a very, very, very good point. And it's a double-sided coin. A, we never have the right. See, if somebody in a, if somebody in a mobile home with their kids not, wearing shoes with holes in them, chooses to put a satellite dish on the roof, and that's their priority. None of us, especially the satellite guy, but none of us have the right to tell them, unless we're supporting them. And that's a whole political issue. But otherwise, we don't have the right to tell them that that shouldn't be their priority. And if you want an extension of the Jeff Paul story, what happens if we don't let them have cable, and cable's where they see the Ron LeGrand infomercial that gets them to the free seminar where they find out how to buy real estate with no money down. And they never would have experienced that if they didn't have cable that they couldn't afford. Say, do we have the right to tell them they can't? And I don't have the right to tell Jeff, hey, you shouldn't really, maybe you shouldn't be spending your last dollar, None of my business, not my responsibility. My responsibility is to get his last dollar. That is my responsibility. Because my responsibility is to maximize profit for my shareholders. Period. Mm-hmm. It's his problem. It's his last dollar. It ain't my problem. Now, the good news is, in his case, dollar well spent. But that was entirely up to him, not me. I didn't do anything. I talked with him for 10 minutes at the end of the seminar and said, hey, I think here's your 4 problems. Boom, 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 go fix them. But that doesn't mean he was going to go fix them. And I promise you, I wasn't going to the basement to find out. Mm-hmm. Here's another whole head trip stuff. We're on page 15. The other big reason people don't wind up with a ton of dough is because they're afraid of it. Having money will create all sorts of problems for me. By the way, on the next page, just for fun, I gave you this great article I found the other day about Kenya millionaires, some kind of big accident, insurance settlement, and now there's all these impoverished people living in huts who suddenly got millions of dollars, and all the problems they got, and their marriages are falling apart. And so having money will create all sorts of problems. Having money will alienate me from my family and my friends. Big issue for a lot of people. They don't want to be the only one in the whole bunch. Having money will make me a target to be taken advantage of. Having money will change me into a bad person. Well, the first three are true. So if you want to be afraid of something, go ahead and be afraid of the first three, because they're absolutely real. Having money will create all sorts of problems for you, and initially you're probably not equipped to handle them. However, not having money has a whole bunch of problems too. Which set of problems would you rather have? You know, it's not that money makes problems go away. I assure you, Trump gets up every morning with a long list of them. You know, but which set would you rather have? I've had them both. I got a car right now, brand new car. Door won't close if you don't hit the lock button twice. Got a little electrical system defect. You know, the little doohickey that you set the seat so two different people can get in and out of the seat and it returns to the position. Never been able to make that work. Turned out wasn't necessary. Never been able to make that work. And you know, those things are a little annoying. But hey, I've had the car where there was no floorboards and you couldn't change a tire. I'd rather have these problems. Give me a choice, you know. I'll take these, you know. Having money will alienate me from family and friends. Will from some, especially if you say no to them. Here's a favorite side strategy. There's a guy here in Cleveland, he was on the radio, a friend of mine has a radio show here, he's on the radio. He hit the lottery. Not big, but millions. Before he goes down to cash the ticket, because now he's going to be on the news with the check and the right, here's what he does. He calls all his relatives and his friends, and he says, I got an emergency, I need to borrow $1,000, and I can't tell you what I need it for. Can you get over here tonight? And he checks them off. As you might imagine, he don't have a whole lot of people running over with $1,000. A whole lot of folks on the list have a reason, not a check. The next day, they all see him on TV having won the lottery. This dramatically reduces the number of incoming calls trying to tap the lottery winnings. Brilliant. I'm driving down the road, listening to this on the radio, I'm thinking, this guy, it's just incredible. He got it. Yeah. By the way, Louis Anderson's book, if you have family problems, Louis Anderson's book is worth reading. Because he's got his whole family, you know, who have been trying to tap him ever since he made $1. Having money will make me a target to be taken advantage of. Yep. The more you got, the more visible you are with it, more people will try and take it away from you. That's true. Well, yeah. The bad news is, the only way not to have to worry about that is not to have anything for them to take. That's the deal. Having money will change me into a bad person. People believe that. They fear that. But money and character are, you know, bad people are bad people. And you know the old deal, so far in the entire history of the convenience store industry, there has yet to be a robbery by somebody who pulled up in a limo. The getaway car hasn't been a stretch. One don't have much to do with the other. Making money too easily is wrong. Big deal for a lot of people. Goes back to the hard-earned dollars thing. I got a pretty strong work ethic. I work hard. Got it from my father. But my father probably was also, to the degree that he has a superior work ethic, he's probably ingrained with this. If you didn't get it by working hard, you don't deserve it, and the only way to get it is by working hard. Well, you believe that? Again, go take a look at all the hard-working people and see how much they got. You know, Ron's great slogan is, the less I do, the more I make. And man, there's a lot of truth to that in a lot of different ways. Rich people are unhappy. Having a lot of people will make me unhappy. Having a lot of money will make me unhappy.
Skip 5.
I know I skipped 5. I can count. I can count. Jump to page 18. People who attract money think and talk differently than people who don't. They have their own language. Their language with others is interesting. I'll point out 2 things to look for. One is, you all belong, how many of you go to your trade association conventions or trade shows or those kind of functions? Okay, good. Here's how to know who to talk to. The only association I currently belong to, and for a number of years went every year to all the functions, is the National Speakers Association, a trade association of those of us who do this for some or all of our living, or pretend to. At the National Speakers Association, 90% of the hallway cocktail party conversation amongst speakers is about the art and style and drama of speaking. Translation, it's about the technical doing of the thing. Not only do they talk about doing the thing, they deliver their shtick, their stage stuff now conversationally. You can't switch them out of it. If you go to a chiropractic convention, 90% of the hallway conversation isn't even conversation. They're busy adjusting each other. They're busy doing for free to each other what they're supposed to be doing for money in their office. And incidentally, they won't touch a patient in their office without x-rays first. But in the hallway at the Aladdin in Vegas during the Parker convention, nobody needs x-rays. They're up against a wall, they're on the floor, they're bent over a chair, everybody's whacking each other. and they're all talking to each other about their different technique. I do the Gonstead technique, I do the whoopee-whoopee technique, I use the activator, do you use the activator? When we used to put the chiropractors and the dentists in the same seminars, they came to the evening seminar, they didn't know, we mixed them. The chiropractors, of course, all thought we were selling only chiropractors until they get there. And you'd see them occasionally. There's sitting a couple of them in the room before we get started, and the one guy's talking to the other one. I use the hoopy-hoopy technique, and the guy's going, I've been in the deal 30 years, never heard of the hoopy-hoopy technique. How does it work? And one's a dentist and one's a chiropractor. You know, it takes them like 5 minutes to figure out they're working on different anatomical parts. 2 years in a row, I spoke at the National Guild of Hypnotists Convention. What are they all doing on the breaks? Woo-wooing each other. This one's got the deal, this one uses the, you know, they're all out there hypnotizing each other. You don't want to talk to any of these people. There's maybe a few here, a few there. What are they talking about? How to get money. That's what they're talking about. They're the ones you want to talk to because they're the ones who got the money. The ones who are talking about the doing of whatever their thing is, I promise you can predict their bank balances. Because they're all focused on the wrong thing. They even think they're in the wrong business. They don't know they're in the money business. They think they're in the whacking, cracking, speaking, woo-wooing businesses. Right? They don't even get that. And so their conversation is all about what's real comfortable to them and all about, you know, the doing of their thing, which, you know, is a tiny little piece of the puzzle. If you don't know that by now, in whatever business you're in, the actual doing of the thing is such a tiny little piece of the puzzle. You know, I mean, it's all about how do you get money. How do you get a customer? How do you keep a customer? How do you build the value of a customer? It's all that. And so you don't want to be in conversation with any of these people. You want to find the few. Now, there's times to have conceptual conversations and philosophical conversations and all that, preferably with people who you've already identified in your mastermind group or you've already identified are a whole lot more successful than you are and so forth. But for the most part, you want to be around the people who are talking about the money, especially if you want to increase your amount of money. The second thing about language with other people, here's a tip. Here's a clue. I saw on A&E or, I don't know, one of them channels about a week ago, they were running a biography of Dave Thomas from Wendy's. And most people have the view of Dave from the commercials, you know, of the happy, jolly, kind of doofusy guy. Dave, pretty ruthless business guy his entire career. And when he was still a Kentucky Fried Chicken franchisee, and took over failing franchises in Columbus, he quickly put 2 other chicken places out of business. And both times they had a huge celebration. I mean, he wanted to put them out of business. He was glad he put them out of business. He was thrilled he put them out of business, and they celebrated putting them out of business. But what all of it, they interviewed a whole bunch of the executives and so forth. And I think this show was done before he passed, by the way, my thinking on this. And the commonality in all the people who worked for him, they said that you couldn't be in conversation with Dave anywhere, anytime, about anything for longer than 5 minutes without him asking, what are you doing to increase sales? What are you doing to increase sales? What are we doing to increase sales? That was always his question. Every day when I call my office, I think he's got a long list of stuff she wants to tell me. My question is, are we making any money? Money coming in over the fax machine? Yeah, we're making money. We're always making money. I said, we're always making money because I'm always asking, are we making any money? That's why we're making money. If I wasn't asking, we'd stop making money. We'd be in some other business. We'd be in the paperwork business. That's the business we'd be in a hot second. I don't want to be in the paperwork business. I want to be in the money business. But if I stopped asking, a whole lot of people think they're in some other kind of business than the money business. Everybody I know who brings in a ton of dough is always asking about it. Tracy's father, who was really the first person I was in, who really fatally flawed individual, but right about 95%. It's the 5% that kills you. But right about 95% of the time. You couldn't come back from running an errand and not be asked, did you get a check? Meaning, did you sell something while you were out? Because otherwise, why leave? You know? I mean, did you get money? Dead of night. Didn't matter. Christmas Eve. Did you get a check today? You know, and everybody tired of being asked. But good question. So they're focused on the money. That's the clue, if you want to know. They're focused on it. They're paying attention to it all the time. And it shows up even in conversational language, the first things out of their mouth. The self-talk's kind of a bigger issue. Vance said something yesterday. Maybe I got it from him. I don't know originally, but is this deal. What did you hear at the top of the stairs? Some of you in the room are too young, but most of us, we have this shared experience. I mean, the actual experience, not conceptual, We have this actual experience. They put you to bed, you snuck back out, and at the top of the stairs you listened to the adults down below. How many have the actual experience? Yeah. Yeah. Well, what you heard has enormous impact on what's going on with you today. And as Mike said yesterday, it's worth trying to identify what that was that you heard, because it's playing a lot. And what most people heard, the statistics virtually guarantee it, what most people heard about money wasn't real good, wasn't real helpful. So stop to think about it. Is what you heard when you were at the top of the stairs, did you hear a lot of abundance conversation, or did you hear a lot of scarcity conversation? These tracks now come out in what you say. You know the common stuff, there's a list of them on the next page, right? There's stuff people say about themselves. There's a license plate that says, off to work I go to pay the bills I owe. It's a crappy reason to go to work. It's really why she can't get there on time. Because she's going for the wrong reason. But it's also, what's it focused on? The bills I owe. Where do most people keep their bills? Where do most people keep their bills? Kitchen table. He said desk. Let's do it another way. Where'd your parents keep their bills? Bedroom dresser. Where'd your parents keep their bills?
Sink.
Kitchen sink, next to the sink. Really, a file cabinet, an advanced set of parents.
Above the bar.
Huh?
Above the bar.
Above the bar. On top of his desk. Okay, where? By the phone. How many of you total they had them in the kitchen? Yeah, a pretty good little clump. Sure. Okay. A lot of them in the top kitchen drawer. A little doohickey. Okay. Kitchen, most used room in the house, where everybody gathers. Okay. There's the bills. Constantly visible, dealt with bills. Where do you keep yours? File folder, drawer. Yeah, get them things out of sight. They should be tickler filed. As soon as they come in, dumped, pay them when you want, when they're due, but you don't want to be shuffling through them all the time. That's the other thing your parents did. They didn't have a tickler file. Not only were they always visible, but in order to figure out which ones they were going to pay today or this week, they shuffled through all of them. In a given month, they shuffled through a stack a lot. And you watched them shuffle through the bills. The thing you saw the most of was bills. My top kitchen drawer, I got full of cash. I do. When I open that sucker, I want to see money. That's what I want to see. I just throw it in there. And when I need more, I go to where I got some, and I get a big handful of it, and I put it in the drawer. And then I just keep taking it out of the drawer until it needs more, and I put more in the drawer. Every time I open the drawer, there's money. The other stuff that's in there, the only other thing in that drawer is the spoons, because I use the spoons most. So to get the drawer open to get a spoon, I see the money. All right? The bills, I put away. I want to see bills. All right? So what did you hear? See, what did they talk about when you overheard their conversations? How many can remember your parents and friends having conversations about, any of you who live in the East, price of snow tires, price of groceries, price of gas? Right? How many of you can tell me now what the price of a gallon of gas tank is? Anybody know what a gallon of gas costs? Huh? Be better if you didn't know. Those of you who raised your hands. Person who knows the price of small things is focused on small things. It doesn't matter what a gallon of gas costs. You're going to buy it anyway. Now, a poor person might make a different choice. You aren't going to make that choice. You aren't going to go to the gas station and say, oh my God, it's X today. I'm not going to buy any. You're not going to do that. If you need gas, you're going and get gas. So what difference does it make what it costs? Since it makes no difference, why clutter your mind knowing? It's irrelevant. I hear people talking about the price of lettuce. Do you know what a head of lettuce costs? Good. They know. They know what a head of lettuce costs. It's incredible to me.
2 stores.
Huh? Oh yeah, at 2 different stores. You know? Does it make, should it make, no. If you want lettuce, aren't you going to go get lettuce? Then why know what it costs? People who know the price of small things are focused on small things. Everything, here's a big principle. Everything is programming. And anything repetitively stuck in there will accumulate and begin to govern everything else you do. So if you have enough conversation about the price of lettuce at 2 different stores, see, that's programming. And it's poverty programming. There's only 2 kinds of consciousness, prosperity or poverty. There's really nothing in between. And so everything's programming. Every conversation you have, every TV show you watch repetitively, whatever it is you read repetitively, it's all programming. You can watch Springer every once in a while for entertainment. I do too. But the person who watches it every day, if they're not already a candidate to be on the show, they soon will be, because it will create what they're watching. Your next slide is about acceleration. Tell you a story. Isn't that your next slide? Page 23. This explains to you, this will also explain to you why I have a drawer full of money.